Hello, everybody, and welcome to TNM Coaching Unplugged and Zoran Todorovic Interconnected podcast. I'm so glad to see you all after the summer break. And after the summer break, we have a very special guest joining me today, Candra Karlholm. It's a very good friend, fantastic colleague, an amazing practitioner who is going to be sharing with us the knowledge around family constellations. And recently, I got really energized about family constellations. I knew about this modality. I was exploring it for years. I've done it myself, but then it kept on coming more and more into my consciousness in recent times. And I think this is due to the need of us to heal the collective. You know, there is a lot in our collective consciousness and collective unconsciousness that needs healing at this moment in time. And I felt that family constellation is the perfect modality to help us do that. So today we're going to be exploring family constellations. What is this for? How can you benefit from it? How can you work with Candra? What are the modalities? What is the outcome? And how can you really benefit your life? How can you benefit your families? How can you benefit your businesses? Because there's so many different applications of family constellation as well. Candra is an amazing practitioner. I love her introduction about herself at her website. You know, she says that she's passionate about growth in love and awareness in all areas of life. And I just want to kind of sit with that. This is the woman who is passionate about growth in love and awareness in all areas of the life. She offers the courses, sessions, she organizes events, and she's also a practitioner of family constellations. She's combining many methodologies from counseling, coaching, consulting, mindfulness, and she has an experience of 20 years of her heartful presence within her practice and working with other people. Candra, welcome.
Thank you so much, Zoran. It's an honor.
Yeah. So tell me about your journey into family constellations. How did you come about to that modality? And what was your journey within, and how did you start loving and practicing that modality?
Wow, that's a good question. Well, I was raised and grew up, normal school, quite intellectual, also came from an intellectual home, loved books and reading. But then when I was maybe around 20, I also discovered like personal development and using the body as a way of learning. So other senses and the feeling realm and all this just opened up for me. And I started to meditate, and I became what we call in Sweden a drama pedagogue. So that's how to use drama as a teaching tool. Mm-hmm. And that was because of this interest of mine in how to, really learn in an embodied way, and combining it also with the sort of connection you get when you're meditative, when you're in a meditative state, when you don't want something, when you're just open. So combining those two, being very embodied and present. So when I saw Family Constellation work in a festival at the No Mind Festival in Ängsbacka, long time ago, maybe 2003, 2002 or something like that. And it was very striking. It was like a strong experience. You just put people up, they're in a role, and they just respond to each other and to the situation according to the impulse that they sense. And it's quite clear and sort of clean, not a lot of talking, very silent and strong. And that really hit a chord with me. I was like so touched, and that was the beginning. And then I started to learn the method and how to facilitate. That was in 2015.
Mm-hmm. So did you have any inspirational teachers? So what is the method that you kind of learned once you started diving into that modality and that practice?
Yeah, I've learned with someone called Svegito Liebermeister. He's one of the main teachers in this field, and he's been teaching it for a long time. He learned it from the founder of the method, Bert Hellinger, who's a German psychotherapist, and who he actually found this way of working. He was a priest and he was a missionary. He was working with people in South Africa. And with the Zulu, he learned from their way of doing ceremony something about this, the field, and how it's important to honor the ancestors. And he began to explore it. And then later he came up with this, mixing it, I guess, a bit with Gestalt work and other modalities. And he sort of diffused it into this way of working. And Svagito combines it also with trauma work, somatic experiencing, and meditation. So it's like a lot of different streams in that river of knowledge. And I'm very grateful to have had this, still have such a great teacher.
Yeah, it's always good, to be inspired, and it's to get to the source and who are the people actually that originally invented in this practice and how this practice came to be. So when you are connecting within the field of the family constellation, you mentioned there is a field that interconnect us and bind the soul, especially, our families or nucleus families, extended families. What is your understanding of that field from your own words? How do you feel that field? And what is it for people who are curious about it before we get into the details?
Yeah, it's a bit mysterious actually, and I think it's probably also individual how you sense it, but it's definitely possible for anyone to feel. Oftentimes, even if people come in from the street and are quite new to the work, often they feel touched. Often there are feelings like crying or anger, really strong emotions that go through the field that are quite open and sort of clear. But there is also like a sort of current you can feel. That's how I sense also, like you can sense a direction. It's not only about sensing, it's also about watching, just observing who looks at who turns away. And then you sort of deduct, you start to understand things just from the way people stand, for instance. So it's not only about sensing, it's also about actually looking.
Yeah. So how would the family constellation look like for the people who are new to this? So let's say that I'm somebody who is struggling with my family, with issues, or I feel that certain things are not aligned within my family, or I am facing challenges, like repetitive patterns are coming up again and again and again. And we all do know that sometimes within the family, we back into the same mold. Like we're sitting around the dinner table, or we're meeting our parents that we haven't met for some time, and we get back into conversation. And there's a certain pattern that just pops up, and we're like, "Oh my God, we're back into this." We all have that. We all have that. So let's say that somebody like that comes into the constellation and says, "Okay, I would love to look into my family. I would love to explore the dynamics, visible and invisible dynamics in my family." How would that process look like? Just kind of walk us through it.
Well, if I meet a person like that who wants to work with me, then first I do a little inquiry with them and look at, okay, so what's actually the problem that they're facing in their life right now? What's important around that? And then from what they say, I also inquire a little bit about their family background. So like, do you have siblings? Did you grow up with both your parents? Which country are you from? These kinds of things. And depending on what they say and what the problem is, I also look for special events, like big events that could affect the family history. Because we're not isolated islands. It's like we're all connected, interwoven. So when something big, like a big trauma, happens in our family history, we will feel that in some way. We will be affected in some way. And especially if there was if that was not processed in that time, like if there was something hidden or someone was excluded, or people had to leave suddenly, and those kinds of things. So we look for that, and then we choose representatives from the group if we're doing a live group.
Yeah.
And then the client gets to place these people. So maybe one for your father, one for your mother, and one for you, for instance. Very simple. And you just place them, and then you watch. And depending on what shows, it's a bit of detective work. Then you can start to see, okay, so the mother is looking away. What is she looking at? Who is she looking for? And then you inquire about her history, and then something happened in her life. And then you put someone in to represent something important, and then something unfolds there. There is an energy that becomes visible and moves the representatives also. You can see how they respond and how they react. So based on that, I can see what needs to be acknowledged, what needs to be felt and honored. And when that happens, and when we can give space for that in an open, loving, accepting way, then something can also fall into place, and there can be healing. And then something else happens. So it's like a current of a river doesn't
Yeah.
end. It's not like, okay, now we fixed something and it's done. It's like
Yeah.
it continues.
Right.
But we can do little things like that. And sometimes it has a really big impact on our lives.
Yeah. And for the people who are more linear, let's say that they want to have an intellectual understanding, I know that they would ask following questions. And I know a few people ask me that question as well. So I want to ask of you. It's like, if you were to place me, for example, to be a father within the family constellation, let's say that you're constellating, how would I know how to behave as your father? What will happen to me to be in that role of being able to position myself or to move myself or to say certain things as your father?
Yeah. When you step in, when we have this intention of doing constellation work, and we have someone who's experienced in facilitating, and we maybe have also a few others who've done it before, just with that intention and the willingness to look, something happens. Then we're like able to embody and tune into this field. So it's actually quite simple. Anyone can be a representative. You just step into the role, you stand there, and then you wait. And you just wait until something moves you. And if nothing, there's no impulse, then that's what goes with that role. So it's not like something always happens. Sometimes people are in shock or something, and then you can also see that they're a bit frozen, and that goes with that role. So
Exactly.
yeah, it just
So I would basically trust myself 100% within the field, right? And I would
yes,
just move based on the impulse. And the impulse can be lay down, say something, don't say anything, jump, cry, be quiet. Whatever happens within my body, within that facilitation will move me, and I need to trust that movement myself. Yeah.
exactly, yes. And you're supported to trust it also.
And then you as a facilitator, you will observe what's going on and then in a way direct and facilitate based on what you feel yourself that it's next, move for the
Yes.
constellation itself.
Mm-hmm. And I
Pure
want
magic.
to add also, sorry, I want to add, because just to clarify, it's not like you have to have a problem with your family to do a constellation. It's not only about those problems that are relational within the family. It's also about my personal life. Like, for instance, if I never find a partner and I really want to have one, I'm not able to form a lasting relationship, or I'm not able to keep money. Maybe I make money, but I lose it right away, or all kinds of different things. So, and then when you present a question like that, we can inquire into the systemic background of that particular struggle. So even those things can be related to what happened in your family, but we don't know this. So this is a way to sort of uncover that and see, how is this related? And sometimes it's quite surprising what comes up.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that it's not only relational and it's not about sorting out your family, but it's also exploring your own challenges. And I love that you mentioned the systemic connection, because the family constellations I were present with, specifically around abundance and money. If somebody within the lineage was living in a poverty for a very long time and they've created a belief system of poverty consciousness, or keeping money and not spending money, or get the money and then just spend it because you don't know when the next money is going to come, maybe that belief or that pattern has been passed on to me or somebody in constellation through my ancestral line. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. Because it's all about bonding. We have this biological urge to bond to our family. That's about survival for us. So we are definitely formed by the field, the people who raised us and who were around us, and they were shaped by the people who were there before them.
Yeah.
So definitely it has an impact on all kinds of things in your life.
So challenging questions here for all of us and for you as well. So what happened in our Western society that we got so disconnected from our ancestors? What happened to us that we actually forgot about our grandmothers, grandfathers, great-grandmothers, and all the lineage? And the reason why I'm asking this question is because sometimes when I'm coaching and training within more undeveloped countries, let's say it like that, or poorer countries, there is a level when they have this memory and remembrance. It's like a story that has been passed from generation to generation about the story about that family. And they're quite attuned to it. They know the history of their ancestors. And something happened to us that we kind of I feel like not valuing that. We disconnect. So do you have any take on that? What really happened to us to get into the amnesia about that we came from somebody before us?
That's a really good question, Zoran. And I would like to sometime ask my teacher also his view on that. But my sense when you were speaking was, I think it has to do a little bit with survival and like money and industrialism. Like when we moved to the cities away from our families to make money, we left this sort of agricultural life. At least in Sweden, it was a lot like that. You lived in your little farm with your siblings and your uncles and grandparents and everyone around, and that's how you made a living, and you needed to stick together to survive. Everyone needed to help out, also the kids. It was like that not so long ago. It was quite recent actually, and people were poor. But then came the big shift and the machines and the factories, and that was the way to make money. So people moved into the cities, and they moved away also from their family members, and they made money on their own. So they were not dependent anymore on those bonds. Mm-hmm. And then they got really busy just trying to survive, going to the factory and doing all that work, and then the kids and everything. So I think that's a big part, actually.
Yeah.
We got so busy.
Connection. Yeah, because I can see this connection. And for me, because I'm also Westerner myself, first time when I encountered Family Constellation, I was so overwhelmed with the beauty of me remembering that connectivity and understanding that somebody along my lineage gave me the life sometime, and that life has been moved to somebody else and to somebody else. And it is as a result of all of those people, before me, I exist. And it was also now, when I'm talking, I have goosebumps as well. It was also about honoring that, because I actually forgot to honor that. I was disconnected on the space of, here I am in my lifetime, but I don't even think about my grandparents. I know they exist, they're lovely, but I never honored the presence to help me become who I am today. So I think that also the Family Constellation serves that connectivity. And for me, I know when I was connected to my lineage, something happened to me.
Yes.
Something simply happened to me.
Beautiful. I love how you say that. And it's such an important discovery. And I think also one element to this disconnection is maybe also that we can be a bit reactive. It's like, because the family had a big impact in the old days. It's like you had to do what your parents said. You had to choose the profession that they had and all this. You were very controlled also within the system. So I think one thing was also when we moved away, we felt a bit more free, and we didn't want to look back. And we were like, oh, let me just get rid of those, get out of there, So, and I think that's a very normal process in like a normal stage in growth. It's like teenage a little bit, but then you mature, and then you can sort of begin to see.
Your parents, you push back, you're a bit rebellious, like a teenager. Continue. Sorry, I interrupted.
Yeah. No, it's like that. And then when you mature, and this is something we all have to go through. It's like we have to go through the disappointment. At first day, we have to realize they're not perfect. And then we have to face and process that disappointment, because there is a great disappointment in all of us from what we didn't get that we needed or something like that. And then we can learn to, as adults, we can look beyond them. We can see, why weren't they able to give us that? And then something happens when we can look at that in a more clear way. And it's not like, oh, you have to honor your parents or you have to forgive them. When you come from this inquiry inside, you want the truth. You just want to see, you want to understand something, and you're open. Then Family Constellation is a beautiful way, because it's very, you can see it. You can see it embodied. You see people who, you can see the emotions on their face, and and that, it reflects. It's like it speaks to something very deep in us. It's not intellectual. It's not like I have to think about them to feel what they felt or to understand them. No, it's immediate. It's right there in front of you, and you can just allow all this to just wash through you. And then you are connected. It's very obvious you are connected. So it helps you to open to that.
Exactly. And being open to that also, it's visible. What you're saying, that it's explicit in a way that you can see it. You're not intellectualizing. And I love what you said, that there's not this motion of you have to. forgive, you have to honor. But that forgiveness and honoring and deeper understanding happens naturally once when you're within the process, or you're workshopping, or you're constellating yourself, because it's so visible and you can feel it. It's tangible, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, beautiful. It's such an amazing work. And, what I'm saying to people nowadays, yes, I've started with relationships are messy, and we all are kind of working through relationships, especially after the COVID-19 lockdown. In my coaching practice, a lot of the times people will come and say, it was much easier when we were separated, right? We were traveling to the work, we didn't see each other, we haven't had those connections. And now we were together for 1-2 years, like in each other's face. And we were, you know what I mean? We were forced to kind of look into the relationship cracks. So the reason why I was saying this is a good modality right now is because people do need to look into those relationship cracks and restore and heal and really look into the nucleus family. But at the same time, the deeper and more extended application of this is being able to constellate yourself, your own issues, and understand the relationship between what happens in the past and what is happening right now. So with that, what are the outcomes? What are the benefits? So let's say that you've done family constellations, you've done many, you were facilitating, but also being a member of somebody's constellation. What are the benefits of it? What happens to people?
People find much more clarity about like the way love flows in relation. Like, what's the accurate relationship between people? Because it's different for parent and children, and it's different between partners who are like together, married or something, and it's different between business partners. And so it's something about getting very clear on what's my responsibility, what's my position, and what is someone else's responsibility that I need to leave to them. Because in families, especially, we're very much intertwined, and we overstep boundaries all the time, and we try to help each other, and it's all unconscious love. It's this bonding.
It's all unconscious love. Go ahead.
Yes, it's the
I want
bonding.
to bookmark it for people. There is also, it's lovely because it's unconscious love. Go ahead.
Yes, so it all comes from love, but it creates a mess often. We all know this from experience. So we can take steps to grow in love and awareness. It has to be both. It's like the love needs the awareness and the awareness needs the love, and we have both. And I think family constellation is a great way of, since it's this like slow, clear, embodied, you can sit, you can watch, you can feel what touches you, you can stand in a role and you can feel what moves you. And you can have all these emotions go through you without being afraid of them, without taking them personally, because you're just a representative. But at the same time, you learn something deep about yourself because you're not different than that. We're all human beings. So you understand, oh, me in that position, I could have done the same thing. I could have betrayed someone. I could have hurt someone. I could have abandoned my child. All these things. It gives me chills. It's like very embodied compassion. And at the same time, you learn, what can I do to support love? What can I do when I truly respect someone? How can I be an equal partner to my partner without becoming like his or her father, mother, or child? So it's very, very much, learning the right way of relating in a way. And finding gratitude, like you were saying, deep gratitude for the life that was given to us, that came to each of us through our parents, not anyone else. They're irreplaceable. Only those two people are your parents, and they are the right ones for you. And you are the right child for them. And then I think you also gain a lot of strength, like a true strength, which is not enforced or trying to be something or trying to prove something, but very humble, very connected. Because you see, I'm just a leaf on this tree. I'm just here for a short time. I will be gone, but my children will live on, and their children will live on if you have children. And maybe you get the sense of destiny somehow, and you get to appreciate this opportunity that we have in this lifetime for as long as it lasts, So I think it puts us in touch with these really essential truths about human existence and what's possible. And maybe also our creativity and our purpose sometimes.
Yeah.
I think that's an important discovery in life.
Thumbs up. And would I be inspired, or the person who's doing constellation, to act differently in real life? So, for example, I've observed my constellations. I've opened up my heart. I felt compassion, gained the awareness, understood the flow of life and love through the family, are able to really deeply relate to this. And now I'm back into my life. Would I shift in my behavior, or that behavioral shift is challenging for people? What happens in the real life application?
Yes, I think so in several ways. One, because sometimes you were actually doing something for someone else. You were actually feeling a feeling which was someone else's in your system. Maybe your grandparents were in the war, and there was a big terror of survival, right? There was this big fear, and maybe you have panic attacks, and maybe that's actually related to what your grandfather felt in the war, for instance. And once that's embodied and shown, and you feel, and you can see, oh, it's actually not me, it's my grandfather, and you honor him and what he went through, you can leave some of it to him. You don't maybe have to feel it as strongly anymore. Or if you still do, it's out of your love for your grandfather. So it's not as personal and heavy anymore.
Right.
Then you can just turn to your heart and go, oh, I remember you, grandfather. I remember what you went through. And maybe you are not so resistant to it anymore. So it can change in different ways. But in either way, compassion will be there more.
Oh, that's so beautiful, because when you are giving this away also to your grandfather, I feel you. I understand that this is, something that has been passed on to me, but you can hold that. I don't need to re-experience it. It becomes conscious, because sometimes people get really confused about what the heck is going on in my life. I'm a good person and bad things are happening to me. I've been in these conversations a lot, in coaching process, that somebody comes and says, I've done everything right. My values are great. I adore and appreciate other people. I'm really a good human being. And then yet I'm struggling with things. I don't understand why.
Mm.
Like, for example, I will have a panic attack and I don't understand why. I eat healthy, I exercise, I jog, I'm mentally fit, like everything is going on well. And then something pops up. So I think that this is also good for people to discover certain things that are in subconscious mind, hidden within the family constellation systems, that need to be seen.
Yes.
And appreciated and resolved, because it can help you resolve things that you're struggling with.
Absolutely. And it can definitely change also your view of it, like how you relate to it. And you won't judge it so much in others neither. So it's, I think it changes a lot the way you are actually in the world.
Yeah. Wonderful. Let me just shift a little bit, because I know also that people from business are watching to this podcast, because we have business audience as well. And they're always curious to see what is the application of the skills and tools that we are highlighting here in the business life. And you also mentioned that the constellation can be done for a business or for the organization, for the company. How does that work?
It works a bit in the same way. It's just, it's a different, some things are more relevant for the business and some things are more relevant in the family. So when we look at a business, it's still a system, and these are systemic constellations, so it works just as well for that. And you can put representatives for like the CEO and the employee and the founder, and you can look at the dynamics that are shown there, or the clients or whatever. And you can deduct and you can learn things from that. Often what's important in a business is, for instance, that the founders, the previous owners are respected. If there's something unclear, or how they were, like if a company, for instance, buys a smaller company and they fire all the, the previous important people, and then they employ new ones, there will be a disturbance if that was done like in an unfair way or whatever. So that's important, like what's the order? And it's also important that everyone in the organization is in his proper place, so that the manager acts like the manager, and the employee acts like an employee, and so on and so forth. So it shows, when you put a constellation, a business constellation, you can see quite clear, just like in the family, who's not in his place, who's not acting in a way that's appropriate for his role here.
Mm.
So it can give a lot of clarity.
Yeah, great. Because I think that's also important because businesses are, after all, families as well. Even if we are in a kind of corporate environment that is not that warm to the family feeling, it's still there is an unspoken feel that connects us all. And sometimes when we have conflicts in the organization, for example, or people are not able to communicate well, or there is a struggle when it comes to the achieving certain goals, so there is complexity that needs to be resolved. I think that businesses can benefit in the most amazing way to go to this workshop. And it can also be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And then, of course, all the people who work in a business are also people. So they also they're part of both systems, the business system and then their own family system as well. So why we get into a mess in life in business is maybe because we have a personal issue with our family, actually. Maybe I'm projecting my father on my boss, and that's why it gets so messy, because actually I have this problem with my father that I haven't resolved yet.
Yes, and then my boss becomes my father. And
exactly, and that
my
gets
boss, and I have unrealistic expectations for my boss to take care of me, love me, and the boss say, no, but you need to take care of yourself. I'm not your dad, I'm your boss, right?
But it's and of course, if you look at business constellations only, you can do that, and then you don't go into the personal things. You just leave it. You just see this one has a personal issue. You leave that. You don't have to go in and work with that.
Into the depth of it. So yeah, exactly. And this is good for the business audience to hear, because sometimes they feel, okay, this is not the right forum for us to get more into the depth of that. But Candra, I'm seeing more and more of this, especially the younger CEOs and the younger businesses, they're willing. They are really, really willing to get into that personal sphere of being an employee and then resolve themselves within the business, which is great gift, basically.
Yeah, that's amazing. And what a potential for the company if the people who work in it are willing to really grow in awareness around everything, also themselves. I mean, that's huge. Beautiful.
Exactly. Which is not only any longer, being disconnected again, this is my personal life, this is my business life, whatever happens in my personal life, I'm not willing to share, because like it or not, we all bring our personal life into our business because we're holistic.
Exactly.
So you can't kind of put the separation on that. So what we're learning from you is that personally, we can benefit all from family constellations. Our families can benefit from family constellations, and that the businesses and more organizational family constellations can also be implemented for people to thrive and to have this clear constellation. Wonderful. Do the family members that are constellated feel the change? So let's say that I've done my constellation for my parents and extended family. Would they feel the change as a result of me doing the work for myself?
Well, oftentimes I think that's the case. I have been in courses many, many times, and afterwards I hear from people that there were really big shifts when it came to how they relate to their parents, or maybe like a brother they never really knew. All of a sudden he calls and they're connected, and all these things happen actually. And in a way, it's not so strange because we are connected, and it is one system. So it's like a tree. If you pull the branch, the rest of the tree feels it also. It does have make a difference.
Yeah, I love that connection. If you pull my branch, the rest of the tree is like, oh, what's going on here? What's happening here? I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. Great.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So that interconnectivity is something that really signifies the entire process of family constellations. And then one last question. This can be done virtually and face-to-face, right?
Yes, correct. Of course, I love to work with people in real life because then there is this embodied sense, and you can watch the representatives and feel touched so immediately in a very direct way. And you can also see further back when you have more people, more representatives. But you can also do it either inwardly, like a guided meditation or a visualization. Depends a bit on the client, how used you are to that and how familiar you are with, how connected you are to those kinds of experiences. Or you can do it with symbols. I do that when I work online with people. Sometimes I use symbols on the screen, and we can move them, and we can sort of tune into each position. So how would this person feel here? How would this be? And you can look at the picture. These people are really close. And then there's this one over here. How is that? And then you can, so certain things you can also do online,
Yes.
especially if you are able to feel them, like to open your heart to them and you want to know. I think the wanting to know is beautiful. And
that curiosity
Yeah.
of really wanting to understand, seeking to understand, being in inquiry, resolving your life. I know that in my life, Family Constellation came to me and it was the right moment for me. Just the modality just appeared out of nowhere. And I'm really hoping for the people who are listening to this will be initiation and invitation for you to consider this powerful process of helping yourself, helping others to resolve, to become more conscious, more aware. And what Candra was saying, to allow the love to flow through your family constellations backwards and forwards. So if this is the right calling for you, please come and join Candra. You can find more information on her website. We're going to refer everything in the description of this podcast, so you can reach her. She's based in Sweden, but she can work internationally, face-to-face or remotely. We're very grateful to have Candra to offer this. So, Candra, any few last thoughts or feelings or invitations that you would love to leave our audience with?
Well, I would just like to emphasize, I think, that it's something, Family Constellation is a way to get to know yourself beyond what you know now, beyond what you know intellectually or even, emotionally. It's a way to uncover hidden things about you, and also to sort of actually meet maybe people from your family that you never met. You can actually, they're all in you, you're all connected. So it's about coming into life and becoming more who you are. It's like, because when you have that connection, when you feel, it's like the roots grow in the soil, and then the tree just naturally blossoms and grows and extends its branches and bears fruit. So this is the work to sort of connect you with your roots that are already there. They are always there. It's just we've been cut off, like mentally, but in fact, we're not. So it's about reclaiming that and finding the strength and the beauty that's available when we are connected. So, yeah, I just want to say, if you're inspired, inclined to explore more, we're very welcome. And there are many good facilitators out there. Find the right one for you, because there are different ways of also doing this work. I like to work with not so many words. Now we've been talking a lot and I enjoy that, but when you actually do the constellations, to give it time to really let it speak to you, to not go so much into the talking and the stories, but really let something move you, and something is uncovered there. But there are different ways.
Yeah. Candra, thank you so much for being guest on TNM Unplugged and Zoran Todorovic Interconnected podcast. We definitely got interconnected and unplugged and elevated and loved through this conversation. We're super grateful for your presence today. And thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. This was a great kickoff for our full season of this podcast. We hope that you enjoyed this really much, and we look forward to be seeing you in the new podcast next week. Thank you so much, and bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.